Course development. I see this as an overview of the process I use to develop the course. Because I'll cover the design strategies in detail in a bit, I'll focus here on my goals for creating the web course for Linguistics 102 Writing Intensive. I wanted to create a linguistics class that took full advantage of the internet's many resources. I didn't want to just have a class that said, read this, then read this, and then read this. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that's not what I wanted. I wanted to instead carefully select media of all kinds to meet the needs of the students and for the core requirements for Linguistics 102W. And I believe I've done that with the sound files, the video clips, websites, readings, interactive exercises. There's even animation. I also tried to create something that was uncluttered, yet attractive and visually enticing. Our students kind of expect that, and so I wanted to make sure that I had something that looked good and was easy to navigate, easy to use. I followed best practices as much as I could, such as easy navigation and intuitive design, I hope. I wanted also for it to be more learner directed, more individualized. And again, I'll show you this in a bit. My challenges, well, I'm not a techie, but I did attend a lot of workshops, and I had a lot of one-on-one sessions with the Media Center people, particularly Leanne, my mentor, Greg, Brent, and also as a Lealoha participant with Dorothy So Hirata. Course delivery. This is the overview of the delivery of this course. The course is organized by weeks, which makes sense to students, and by modules to organize related material. The modules were developed using Front Page and then published in eMedia and then linked into Laulima using the web content tools. The modules, when I click on modules, let's see, no, okay. This is called Central, and I'll go slowly here. But this organizes all of the 6 modules, and it's by week because that makes most sense to students. They can actually plan their time. There's a course calendar as well. The syllabus and other things are here in Central. Actually, everything is here in Central. All the modules. So these are created in Front Page, as I said, and then they're linked into Laulima using the web content tools. If you look here, here we go. On the left side, the Laulima tools, I use these, including modules, which I'll focus on those in this presentation, but the modules also include where I store the syllabus and calendar. I use assignments. The assignments are for required and extra credit activities. I always return within 3 days. I pride myself on that. I feel like the students work hard to meet deadlines, and I need to do the same. I use tasks, tests, and surveys where I store the module quizzes and activities. I like to put certain activities into the TTS, I call it, because it gives students instant feedback. I use forums. Forums is for one of my most important semester-long activities called the OBS and ROBS, which again I'll focus on in a little bit, as well as other required and extra credit activities for the whole class to read and discuss. I use announcements. I post 3 times a week. I got that from Greg, which is a great idea. The whole idea is so that I can be present in this online course. If the announcement is important, I'll email it as well. On Mondays, I post, maybe we can go ahead and click I don't know, we just want to see it. For what it's worth, here we are. On Mondays, I post a welcome to the new week as well as a review of the past week. On Wednesdays is the Guess Who game. I got that idea from Donna Matsumoto, my colleague at Language Arts. It is a way for students to get to know each other based on information that they provide themselves in an activity. Also, when the Guess Who game runs out, because it does, I use usually Wednesdays for job openings, job fairs, scholarship information, whatever. And then on Fridays is a feature that I'm getting pretty consistent with. It's called Living Language. And for example, this week, Tuesday, or I guess it's last Tuesday, there was an announcement by the Scrabble people in the UK that they were going to change the rules. And of course, we're interested in Scrabble because this is a linguistics class where we're interested in words and spelling. And so it was in the news on Tuesday. I posted information on Friday, including and my sense of humor sort of comes out. You might be able to see that. But this is what living language, language in the news. This is the example of the Scrabble one, where I included an article about the rules so that students can get some background. I also put a link for them to play Scrabble free, and then the Scrabble solver, which is, as I say here, it's not very pretty, but it's awesome. And as far as I'm concerned, hey, you can use whatever tools if it helps you win. Previous living language postings have included when the Washington DC Pandas were returning to China, they needed a Chinese tutor. I thought that was pretty funny. And then when the Avatar movie was out, I linked to the Na'vi language, again, all related to our class. So it's fun. It's nothing required. And of course, I hope, since I think everything here is fabulous, I really do hope that my students will at least look and again, maybe pique their interest in noticing the language around them. Back to the tools, I have some information about me. I give some background, education and all, but some interests as well. And I do focus in on language-related interests. I also have photographs of me and my gorgeous children. There we are. I also use the mail tool, the grade book. The mail tool I use for the first time. I'm trying the mail tool. It actually sends messages to and from our UH emails, and so far so good. It's something I'm testing out this semester. And of course the grade book, and then the chat room for office hours. My goal has been to link the class to the world, to develop an appreciation for human language and the people who speak these languages. Interaction and collaboration. In this class, I use mostly the forums for students to speak together. The activities, the main activity that I use in the forums, I use others, but the biggest one is what's called OBS and ROBS, observations and responses to these observations. This is a large group interaction, and the example that you're looking at is one of the newer ones. It's click, click, ba. I like that one. Notice how the students will create the posting. The whole idea is to notice language around them. They give data and analysis, and then students are required at a later point to respond to these different these OBS by giving either data or analysis. And it's really very nice. The one that you're looking at happens to be where a student was focused on created languages. It's one of the things that we focus in on the class. And then not so much this one, but this one. The second response is very nice. You can see that students are reflecting on what their classmates have written, but they're also reflecting on the language that is around them, and that I like. There's no right or wrong for this. You'll notice too that you won't find a posting reply by me. I resist posting mainly because I feel like once I post my opinion, it's almost as if my opinion is the only one or the most important one, the one that matters. And I don't want students to focus on what I say. I want them to focus on what they say to each other. And so I tend to email the students about their things. I'll add data, or I'll add analysis. I will never correct them. I just tell them what a great posting it is. And they really are. They're always really very good. There's a student-to-student interaction is something that's very important to me. Very reflective. The variety of topics is great. It's everything from dragon language to errors kids make, accents that they hear. There are other activities as well, including the story, what is the story behind your first name, and creating a slang dictionary. We'll take a look at that in just a little bit. Course design and learning materials. I'm always mindful of the limitations of online delivery, and I'm always asking myself, what can I do online that I do in person? But I want to do it better online than if I can in person. And so the visual design for me, I try to make the components, the sequencing, the expectations clear. And so, for example, everything is organized around Linguistics Central here. All of the modules and the lessons within each module. The modules are paced by week, and that way, and in the sequencing, the organization, and the progression of course concepts are delivered via individual lessons, and that's these numbers here. So we can go ahead and go to the introduction. This is the first web page for the first module, and they all pretty much look like this, where I introduce the module and how the students can complete the module successfully. This first module introduces navigation, which I will show you in just a moment. I have learning objectives. The first module, of course, not only are we getting into the linguistics class, but I also want them to be able to use the Laulima tools. I have 3 very short pages that they'll look at. It just so happens as well that we have the first required activity, and this is what they look like. I guess I'm sort of jumping around because everything is sort of connected, but as you can see, required activities, all activities come in organized in a box like this. They are all color-coded. Red is required, sort of like a, catch the student's attention. I have information on how the students can do the activity successfully, where they're supposed to submit their information, things like this. What I want to show you actually is at the bottom of the page is how I navigate, how I have students navigate from one lesson to another. And so using arrows that have the students go to previous lessons, to future lessons, and then in the middle, for every page, you'll find the house, and actually this goes back to Central. I've done everything I can to help students navigate from one lesson to another without having to go through the Central, which they can, but the idea is so that they can just do this. They read whatever the page has them do, various links, etc., and then they just go on to the next level, the next lesson. The first lesson gives the objections for that module. The last lesson of each module is a summary of objectives for that module, and I can show you that very easily by going back to Central so that I don't have to go through every page. And then here's the summary. You know that it's the summary because you'll see the box that asks you to what the next thing to do is, and that is to take the module quiz, and you'll see again it's color-coded in yellow. I've tried to create web pages that are attractive without being cluttered. I also try to address different learning styles and abilities. A lot is visual, so students will be reading. In fact, it's best if I show you an example. And I will show you something the students are working on this week, or they will next week actually. I have some students who are ahead. This is one of my favorite pages. So there are visual things. This one is on the history of English, modern English. So there are illustrations. If you want to, you can actually take a tour of the museum by clicking that link. Illustrations, photographs. Hope I don't make anybody dizzy by going so
walker.
fast. Explore some more. You can't really see this, but it's green. It's a bright green. This is one of the things I love so much about the online class. I think it is innovative. I think it transforms student learning because I can present information that I don't necessarily have time to cover in a 16-week course or a 6-week summer class, but I can present information to the students, and I hope that they will look at it, but they don't have to. It just provides them with a way to explore the topic some more. And again, it's color-coded. And you'll see, you can take a tour of a museum, you can go to a website. There are other things that you'll see in just a moment. More illustrations, transcripts. When I talk about Shakespeare, who is modern English, believe it or not. Here, listen, this is navy blue, and this activity, I have this throughout the class as well, where I link sound files. And in this one, what I did was I linked 2 versions of the to be or not to be, and the reason is, of course, is because I happened to just show the transcript as well as a photograph of Shakespeare. And so you can see it's very rich. It takes students through the content, of course, but it also has them step beyond. Just for Fun is a different color blue. It's not showing up on the screen I'm looking at, but it is. And in this one, this shows my sense of humor. I think that's the other thing about my class, which I think is, I think the students appreciate, and I have fun with it, is my sense of humor and my personality. So for example, you can see I have Shakespeare insults. And of course, you can see my humor in not only the links, but also in the words that I have chosen to write. It's so far you've seen that it is visual, it's oral, there are sound clips and recordings.
Master mix of Apologize by Timbaland featuring One Republic. It's Jabberwockies.
So there's all kinds, video clips, oral too. I have an example that I'm going to show you in a bit. But I have lots of sound recordings as well. I'm sorry, I'm going fast. I don't want to make anybody dizzy. Let's see. Let me show you 3.358. For example, all of these that you see here are all sound files that Greg and I recorded, literally hundreds, in English, in Spanish, the individual sounds as well as the words that feature the sounds. So lots. And you would expect this. You would expect extensive use of the sound files in a linguistics class. I'm not there to pronounce the sounds aloud, and so I recorded them. I also have other sound files as well that I can show you that are not just my voice. I actually have sound files from professional actors, which, of course, because I take mercy on my students, they don't want to just hear me. Super segmentals. So you can see all these underlined are all sound files in Hawaiian as well. The 3 languages I speak more or less well, English, Hawaiian, and Spanish. Students click and listen. Whenever possible, of course, I always try to tie into visual. So not only do we have sounds, but we may have a transcript related, we may have a comic related. There's also hands-on activities. I have interactive activities as well. Oh, here's another thing. This is a sound file. It's also a video file, and it's my personality. It's really it's not silly though. It's completely related to the content. It's just a way for me to inject myself into some of these lessons. Let me show you one interactive example. This one that I'm going to show you was created by the intern. We had an intern here at the Media Center a couple of summers ago, and he was able to create this for me. So you'll notice how it's an activity, required activity, it's in red, and students have an assignment, and what they do is they click the flash, and you can see that it is a pull down for the answers. I have a variety of these types of interactive. This is not the only one. This is just the example. You will see, let's see, I don't know how to get back to the, I guess I'll just try it this way and see if, good, that worked. You can see that the modules, and I will go back to, I'll show you this one. There is a unity to all of them as well. It was something that was important in course design. Color coding, even each of the modules, they all have similar clip art. They all have similar, this top line here is similar as far as color. And again, that helped to, so that students would never be able to get lost really. They know they're in module 1. It says so, and it's got that color as well. Assessment and learning outcomes. Of course, as you will have in every class, there is a syllabus, and the syllabus outlines all of the learning outcomes for the students as well as my goals. A copy of the syllabus is found central in modules. But I also, each module introduces what the module is about, as well as the objectives, that by the end of the module the student should be able to answer these questions or do these particular activities. And the activities are built on skills where I introduce what I want first. I try to prepare the students for the activities, so there'll be practice first, and then they will submit the work. I will give you an example. 421 sentences. This is an example. Okay, I sort of need to find where, here it is. This is module 4. You can see building blocks of language. To me it's intuitive, and it's a bright yellow color. Why not? Because I like yellow. And here's the activity that I wanted to show you. So that I can ensure as best I can student success. I'm not there to explain things, and so I have to be sure that I've written as clearly as I can. Here's the required activity, you know, because it's in red. And I have, the activity is here. It's having to do with identifying subjects and predicates, something they might have done in high school, probably didn't do in English 100. For some students this is pretty scary, and yet it is important for us because this module looks at grammar. And so to prepare students, I have provided practices. So what they can do here in the practices is they can take a quiz, they can look at a website for more information. I mean, they can even listen to Schoolhouse Rock, which I don't know about you, but I loved it growing up. And so whatever helps. And then when they're ready, they can go ahead and do the activity. So I've tried to prepare them so that they can have the most success possible. And if that's not enough, there is going to be, down here, explore some more. So there are even more links to help students who need the little extra. The rubric mentions 7 principles of good practice for undergraduate education by Chickering and Gamson. And I believe that I accomplished these. First of all, I encourage contact between the students and myself through email, my assignment return comments, my announcements. I also email them a get started and welcome to the class and midterm conferences. I think in the future I'll probably put that as an assignment, so I really can't show it to you because it's an email that I send all the students, but it's a way to introduce ourselves in the beginning, and then midterm around week 6, week 7, I ask them how they're doing. And not just in the class, I'm interested in their lives. I also respond a little bit about what's going on with mine, with my kids or with work or whatever. Not too much, but enough where I think I'm giving them a little personal information, which I think is good for developing a learning community. The second of the 7 principles is develops reciprocity and cooperation among students, and I think I was able to show you this through the OBS, ROBS activity that was in the forums. Third, I encourage active learning, the OBS, ROBS, the interactive exercises, video clips, sound files. I mean, students are using their clickers and they're using their mouses and they're getting in there and they're learning the material. They're not just reading, and there's nothing wrong with just reading, but my students are doing more than that. The fourth principle is giving prompt feedback. I do. Many of the activities are in the tests, tasks, and surveys. Not just quizzes, but also activities. And that's nice because from the student point of view, they get immediate feedback. And they don't have to wait for me to record, to grade and then return it back. So it's right away. If I do need to return assignments, I do it within 3 days. It's something that I just strive to do, and I pretty much always do it. Fifth, emphasizes time on task. I believe so. The lessons are organized into realistic blocks of time. The lessons are not too long. The required graded activities are clearly identified by words and by color. So I think the students spend less time being lost and wondering what the heck to do, and instead actually working on learning the material. Six, communicate high expectations. I believe I do that as well. I can show you. I have a specific page for this in Module 1. It's one of the first things that the students will read, what to expect in our online class. And this one, I think I developed this for my other class, English 209, but I sort of explain why, the advantages of online classes. I like the idea. My students are always surprised that I have this when it requires fearlessness. You sort of have to be willing to let go. You can't control everything. You have to have faith that you followed the directions, and when you submit your work, it got submitted. But also, so what students can expect from the class, and then what they can expect from me. And so I think this is good because this is from the very beginning, and then I try very hard to live up to these expectations. Also, the overall tone of the class is, I believe, high level. It's for this writing intensive class, so I believe even the language throughout is communicates my high expectations for the students. And also, the seventh one, respect diverse talents and different ways of living, learning. Yes, visual, audio, hands-on, all throughout the class. All of the lessons and activities encourage critical thinking, but because the course is online and students are working remotely and independently, I do try to prepare them thoroughly, as you saw from the example for the subjects and predicates. Self-reflective learning, the OBS ROBS example is perfect. The students are sharing what they're knowing, what they're noticing, probably for the first time, about language that's around them. They give feedback to each other. The OBS ROBS require thoughtful feedback to add data or analysis, but I noticed that they also use the feedback to cheer each other on, which I think is just awesome. And the students are also encouraged to generate content. That's part of this rubric here, and I'll give you an example. The students will often recommend some website that they found, which is always really nice. But I have a specific activity in which this is fun because it's completely uncensored. Slang. And so I have lots of information about slang, what slang is, what slang isn't. I have a podcast on slang from public radio for them to explore some more. Remember now, explore some more is not required, but of course, because I think it's fabulous, I hope that they will use it. And then the slang dictionary, of course, it has to be presented in a scientifically linguistic way. And again, the students, some of the answers would probably shame my grandmother. But anyway, but it's fantastic, and the students are creating content. What I do with the information is before the semester ends, I compile them all. I haven't gotten brave enough yet to put it as a website, just because some of the words are quite blue, is that the word? Anyway, but I do compile their answers, and it's always a kick for them to see their various answers. Course design. The course is well organized. The Linguistic Central organizes all the modules, and the modules have lessons, and everything is organized by weeks. The course is also very easy to navigate, as you saw, using not only central but also at the bottom of each of the lessons having the left and right arrows. The course design, the course is visually attractive, I believe, with unified color and clip art. There are a lot of illustrations, yet I think it's uncluttered. There are no dancing monkeys or anything silly like that. It's a consistent page design, a consistent font throughout, which I think aids navigation. I also use different media, and I've mentioned it, but I thought it might be a good idea at this point to actually try to demonstrate a couple of the different media. So this is a lesson in which you can actually click a number of sound files. So I'm going to click this one for you. I recorded this. I just have to get used to hearing my voice, I guess. Sentences as well as single sounds and words. So students have a lot of that. The difference between this word and this one. See, if I were in person, I'd be doing that. What's nice about the online class is that if students didn't quite catch it the first time, they could actually play it over and over again, and that's a real benefit for them. I'm headed to the bottom of this screen here. I'm going to show you sound files. I have tons of sound files throughout the whole class, but I also have video, YouTube, to History Channel, through public television. I want to go to 3.7. No, not 3.7. I'm sorry. 413. Here we go. And this is an example where we're talking about how words are formed. And so I have a little bit of the Jabberwocky. And I have Mr. Lewis Carroll there, as well as even some of his own handwriting. Rules, examples. We have activities coming up here, comics, which are not just, they are completely related to the morphology. And then YouTube, and this one I'll just point to it. There is a show that my younger students in particular watch, I'm sure, every Thursday night, America's Best Dance Crew. And so this is something on MTV, and I'm talking about Jabberwocky. So here you have everything that I could think of related to Jabberwocky, included, by my good fortune, this dance crew. And so it's a video, and should I click it? I will click it. And hopefully it will load. And there you go. Everybody dance. Is it? Here we are. Okay, anyway. But the kids love it. My students love it. Okay, I love it. So again, that is an example of different kinds of media. I also address accessibility issues. For example, and I guess the best example is to show you in this lesson, 66622, where this is about Middle English and William the Conqueror. But this one, by the way, is pretty cool. This is an animation. So if you click this, these figures here in the tapestry actually come to life and tell you about the Battle of Hastings of 1066. Very cool. Something that I would have to haul a video machine to the classroom and put the tape in and all of that. Here, online, students click. They want to see it again, they can click. They want to see it again, they can click it again. The accessibility issues is what I was talking about, and here is an example where not only can you listen to the sound file, but we also have a transcript. So this is Norman French, and then here it is. Here is the transcript as well. So I believe that this helps to address accessibility issues. It's a good example. Learner support. I provide information on taking online courses in case the students have trouble. I sort of see trouble as being in three different areas. So this is the Module 1 introduction page, where one of the first things we want to do in the class is to learn to use Laulima, as well as learning to use the course materials, as well as dealing with technical problems. So I begin by showing them a very quick explanation about basic things about how the class works. I don't want to overwhelm them too much, because very soon, once we get into the course, they will have a lot of information. I have a page as part of the introduction on the Laulima tools. I quickly discuss all of the tools that we use. I remind them that the forums, for example, is a public forum, and what they should and should not post. And this is what I want to show you at the bottom of this page, how I help students find help. I have a web page, I have a page here that tells them if they have questions about the course, anything related to grades or the lessons or whatever, that I'm the one that they need to contact. If they have questions about Laulima, I have found that the Laulima people are terrific. All you need to do is to request assistance at the bottom of every Laulima page. That's fantastic. And then technical questions, computer problems, whatever, is the help desk. Often what students will do is they will email me first, and I will send them to Laulima, or I will send them to the help desk. I often find that as a non-techie, I cannot answer the questions. And I really hate giving them the wrong information. I would rather send them to an expert. And of course, I also have a link here to the distance ed resources that are available to the students on this campus. What's nice about that is there's information, for example, on all distance ed classes, but there's a Laulima tutorial that I've sent students to, and they reported that they actually found that quite helpful. So I do have different ways of helping students to get help, not only by telling them, when I say hello to them, or when I email them, when in announcements, telling them that they can contact me through through our office hours or through email, but also, as you can see, through this example of the web page. Innovation and transformation. To me, this means I try my best to make my class, my online class, better than if I were teaching it in person. Richer, more interesting. I have resources at my fingertips that I don't have when I'm teaching in person, and I try my best to try to take advantage of these. Some of these that I'm going to talk about you've already seen, and I'm going to try to spare you showing you examples over and over again, so I may just quickly mention. I'll try to show you something new. To me, innovation, some of these things, by the way, are common to all or most online classes, not just mine. The idea of individualization of instruction so that it's learner driven. I mean, if all of my linguistics students were in the same room at the same time, I believe that they would be doing different things. One might be reading something, one might be watching a video, another might be listening to a clip, maybe several times to hear my funny voice, another might be doing an interactive exercise. And that's one of the nice things about online classes, is this individualization. We have resources at the click of a mouse, immediate, right there in front of the student. It's global too. There are things that we can't cover in person that I offer as just for fun or explore some more, that students, of course, can skip, although I can't imagine anybody would want to skip any of my stuff. It's visually exciting, yet it's unified. The media is rich. You can read, you can listen, you can watch, you can move things, you can practice things, you can check your answers. It also requires discipline, however, because it's not completely open-ended. Students need to meet deadlines. There's a calendar in the in modules along with the syllabus, but at the same time, because it's organized by weeks, often my students find that they can organize their time pretty well. I do inject my sense of humor and my personality, and this is the example I wanted to show you. You already saw examples of my humor, but I wanted to show you as here, I always try to put in Hawaiian whenever I can. So I don't know if you noticed, but when I did the sound file I clicked was Spanish, but also on that same page were sound files in the Hawaiian language. I try to do that wherever possible, and here I have a photograph of Kealihipawahi and Lili'uo Kalani, again having to do with names. So it's all related to the course content, but I've injected my personality, and of course a lot of my students appreciate that, whether they are Hawaiian like me or not. So the second part of this rubric asks me to consider how I may transform the educational experience of my students, and I think I've come up with 3 ways. I think, first of all, it changes the way students learn. There's an all-encompassing learning using a wide variety of sources. So they're not just bound to a book. There's nothing wrong with being bound to a book, but that's not what I'm wanting. What I want is something that offers so much more, where they can actually listen. If they click something, like in this one, they can listen to Rumpelstiltskin. They can read things. They can do all kinds. There's tables and all kinds of things. I'm kind of headed down real quick. Pictures, all kinds of things, fun with names. I mean, my goodness, even Shonen Knife, that Japanese group, which is so awesome. I'm headed down to the bottom here. So it's wonderful, because it really does allow students at a click of a mouse to have all of these resources at their fingertips. Of course, they have been carefully chosen, so I don't just link everything just because it seems to be related to language. I have carefully selected them. Of course I would, whether it was in a classroom or an online delivery. But the idea here is that students have a variety of resources. I think you will recall, and I'll very quickly head back to 623. We already saw this one, but as you can see, and I'm going to head quick, where the students can visit, they can visit a museum. As you know, if they have time, if they find this topic totally stimulating, they can actually visit a museum, or they can watch a video clip. They can listen to things. It's just so wonderfully rich. They can watch movies, movie clips. So I think it transforms their learning in that the students begin to use more than just what's in a book, more than just from one source, more than just from me and my point of view. Another example. Another way that learning is transformed is, I think that my course is respectful of adult learning and critical thinking, because the students are able to, and they are encouraged to try all of these different media and all of these different resources to get content. I think the idea is that it encourages them to be critical thinkers, that when they see something, it may be fun because it's a commercial product. I also want them to connect to the scientific that we cover in the course. So it encourages them to be critical thinkers. It encourages them to explore on their own, and that's very respectful of adult learning. I'm not just shoveling things into their head. I am asking them to think, to look at different things, to learn in different ways, in all different ways: visual, oral, audio, you name it. And I think the third part, and I want to show this is one of the examples. I believe that my course is respectful of adult lives. I realize that the students who are taking my class take it because they want to take it from me. Well, yeah, but also because they need to take it online. This online form fits with their lives, with their schedules, with work, and their children. And so wherever I can, I try to have fun things. So this is something that, for example, this one, Make Your Own Cartouche, it's related to the discovery of the Rosetta Stone and how we are able to read hieroglyphics thanks to the work of these 2 guys whose heads are cut off. Well, anyway, there they are. So this is kind of fun. This is something that a parent might be able to show their child, and whenever possible, I try to link to these things. My students are not just language learners. One day they're going to be language pathologists. They're going to be therapists. One day they're going to be language teachers. And many of them are parents, and I want to show you an example where I recognize that, my students have lives. They have adult lives, and their busy schedules. And so in this particular page, has to do with, do animals have language? You can see that I have a comic where, wow, that's a really good, smart parrot. Illustrations wherever possible. Again, more related, relevant comics. students can explore some more. They can actually see the bees dance. It's part of language communication. They can watch Coco. There's Coco, cute. They can watch Coco sign, and they can watch more dancing. But oh, this one's not showing it. Let me show you a better one. Oh dear. Let me show you another one. This one's the page you're looking at now has to do with the origins of language, and of course very scientific ones, but also onomatopoeia, one of the theories. And then of course, because of my sense of humor, I put in Japanese onomatopoeia related to anime, which of course a lot of my students are into. I've tried my best to provide to recognize who my students are, and then to provide interesting materials for them. So let's see. Anyway, here, maybe I can do it from this page. Yes, here it is. I want to show you an example of recognizing who my students are and their being respectful of their lives. This one has to do with the need for a phonetic alphabet. These are all my sound files. You want to hear me? There you go, tons. Students, again, can listen, listen, listen again. They'll never wear me out because I'm not in person. They can practice. So here is a practice, and then they can click here. They can check their answers and then come back and try the next practice before they actually have to submit their work for grading. Here, this is what I wanted to show you. I recognize that my students will be teachers and they are parents, and so wherever I can, I will provide good quality materials. This one is coloring pages and phonics games that the students might find helpful. So as you can see, it's innovative in that it is individualized instruction, taking full advantage, I believe, of the best that the web has to offer. It addresses students' needs, their different learning styles, by providing video and audio and just, you name it, this class has got it. Yet with so much stuff here, it's actually very intuitive. I think it's beautiful. I think it's unified with color and with consistent fonts. I believe that it transforms the students in that now they take advantage of what I am offering them, and they as adults then can become more critical thinkers because they're not just accepting me or one single book as the only source of material. And I thank you very much for this opportunity.